going to be a follow-up video to my Solar Wars retrospective. Retrospective on my Solar Wars campaign, just like the name says. So I put my video up. I got some feedback from one of my players who saw the video, and he said that in my original video, I made it sound like it was the player's fault that the game fizzled. And it was. But it was not only the player's fault, it's a team effort, obviously. So he had requested that I go over it in a little more detail. I've talked with him personally, but just more detail for the viewing public. So the Solar Wars game, I had my one-shot all set up. I had my railroad all set up, the plot I wanted to follow. Plus I had some sandbox elements, as always. I run a sandbox style. And, you know, I told them all to make officers on a Republic destroyer, a spaceship, military spaceship. So Rick had wanted to get together for a pre-session session, which I hate. I really hate them. But I didn't have anything better to do that day, and we couldn't run that day. It wasn't quite prepared yet. So I said, why not? Pre-session session, we can all meet each other, chill out, talk about games, and have a good time. We got together. It's myself, Rick, a new guy, Patrick, turned out to be an excellent player, Gregory, and Maggie. So we got together. I went over the setting in brief, and then they started collaborating to make their characters. And usually, you know, this is one of the reasons I hate pre-session sessions, and one of the reasons I love making your characters in secret or just in private, is since they made all their characters together, they all knew everything about each other right off the hop. So right off the hop, you lose all those great scenes about meeting each other, getting to know you, about making small talk, and slowly introducing your character to the other players, which sucks. You lose role-playing value right off the bat. The other thing you lose is the ability to have secrets. And I love to have secrets in my game. You know, you might think that I'm playing a fighter. I'm actually playing a wizard. You might think I'm a cleric of Moradin, the Soul Forger. I'm actually a cleric of Thrym, the Frost Giant King. You know, you might think that I'm a human. I'm actually a polymorph bullywug. I love having secrets, you know. So right off the bat, you lose a lot of your ability to do that as well. So the mystery is gone. Oh, and I love the mystery in the game. So that's problem one. That's just role-playing problems. We can overcome that because they're strong players. I wasn't worried. I was annoyed, but I wasn't worried. Then they're making their characters together, and they're weaving their backstories together, like really tight. And I had told them that their first story arc was going to involve space pirates, essentially. So they start weaving this plot together around space pirates, you know, thinking it's going to be the main thrust of the whole campaign, which is not what I had planned. So, you know, I think Greg was a officer hunting space pirates. Maggie was his rebellious daughter who joined the space pirates. Rick was a mad scientist working for the space pirates, and Patrick was playing the leader of the space pirates. So everyone's tied into this pirate plot, and they go through their own little story arc and say, you know, how did we meet? How did we come together? And Maggie said, you know, oh, I betrayed the pirates, and then later Rick betrayed them, joined the Navy. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's not. It's not completely nonsensical. We made it fit. And then, you know, so everyone turned on Patrick. Patrick got at the last, last session, if this were an actual campaign, got captured mind wiped. They erased his memory, erased his personality, replaced it with a blank slate, basically. Because that's what Patrick wanted to play, an amnesiac who knew he was an amnesiac and knew all about his past life. Not firsthand, but secondhand information about his previous life. Great character idea, excellently role played by Patrick. So they tie their backstories together very tightly, and in doing this, we basically made the pirates the sole focal point of the campaign. So I got their private, their private backstories. I got those too. Maggie is Greg's daughter, so all of her stuff is tied to Greg. She's a rebellious daughter, supporting character for Greg. She had a few hooks of her own that were passive that would come back to her. She didn't have any goals, motivations, aspirations. Rick is a mad scientist who turned traitor on the pirates. He had some hooks that would come at him as far as him driving the plot. However, he really didn't have a whole lot there. Except betraying the other party members, because Rick has to betray someone in every campaign. But other than betraying the party, he didn't have much there. Patrick is mind wiped, so you'll get again, all three great role playing value, but no goals to drive the plot, no motivation. So Patrick's mind wiped. He has no motivations. Greg is a great pirate hunter. He wants to smash these pirates into the ground. Patrick's character caused him to be demoted at one point. He used to be an admiral, and when we join him, he's only a commander. He's been demoted twice. He's running this destroyer, which is a very small ship. For the Navy, it's very small. So Greg not only had the role playing, but he drove the plot forward like a real storyteller should. So he was great, and I figured, as long as he shows up every game, everybody else is fine. Go secondary, and that's fine too. But what my big mistake was, when I saw they were all keyed onto the pirates, I switched the campaign focus from my campaign, and I switched into a pirate campaign, which I wasn't very interested in, but interested enough to run, since everyone else was interested in that, and especially Greg. Mike did join the campaign a little bit later, and he made a character. I was so happy. I was like, oh, thank goodness. He can have some secrets. He can have some mystery. He can get those cool getting to know you scenes. And he did have all of that. He had mystery. He had role-playing chops. So great addition. Again, what his character lacked, motivation. So he's great to talk to. And there are things that could happen to him. As far as him seeking things out to do, there wasn't much there. Not at all. So we played through a couple sessions. Actually, our first session was a prequel. It was like the finale of this campaign that they had all written together. Where Patrick came in as the big space pirate and engaged in combat against them. They captured him. And it led to him being mind wiped. So great session, space combat, boarding actions, role playing, excellent session. Next session, we got some good role playing on our starting location, which is a hypergate space station. Got some factions introduced, got some NPCs introduced, obviously, plot hooks. And we're getting ready to depart space station. Next session, Greg's not there. I plugged in a combat because Patrick's character had certain people after him to try and restore his old personality. So they came in, try to capture him. So fun little combat. Patrick got blown out into space through an airlock, but he managed to survive. He was well appointed with a kind of a stealth cloak, Predator style, And it actually, because it had a hood that pulled over your face, it's specifically detailed in its write-up that it could protect you from vacuum for like a minute, not long, but it was all the time he needed to get back in and for them to rescue him. Great session for a combat. Next session, Greg was absent again, so they were on the space station, and I'm like, okay, it's a sandbox. Go do what you want to do. You know, I've on my railroad. I used it last session. I don't have anything to railroad you with. Do what you want to do. You know, I got 10 NPCs prepped, five places prepped on the space station. Plus, you can always make stuff on the fly. And they just kind of stood around, looking around. I don't know what to do. You know, I have nothing to do. I have no desire to do anything in character. You know, their characters weren't that motivated, like I said. So we moved it forward. I took over as Greg's character, the captain of the ship, because someone needs to be the captain every single session. That's why, you know, Greg needed to be the most reliable player. So the ship launched out through the hypergate, came into our first star system, and I threw in another combat to pad it out. Pirates attacked. Great space combat. Pirates came in stealthy, kind of powered up right behind the player's ship, the Arc Flash. Open fire, big chase scene to the asteroid belt. The players managed to lose themselves in the asteroid belt. The old Han Solo gambit. They turned off their power and kind of drifted. The pirates couldn't find them. They formulated a plan, came back, and defeated the pirates. Excellent. Then, you know, I was talking to Greg. I said, you haven't been there for 2 sessions. What's the deal? You're the captain. The captain needs to show up for every session. You know, this is why I picked him as the captain. He didn't want to be the captain, but I didn't want to be NPC captain, because that's just straight railroad. It's very boring for me as a GM. So I picked my best player. And I said, can you please be the captain for me? And he said, no problem. And he made a great captain. But I was talking to him about his attendance. He said he couldn't commit to it. He changed his mind about another game, which he was going to quit, free up time on his schedule. So he's out. I've never had someone quit my game before, but I've cut lots of people. I cut people, you know, my standards are very high, so I cut people all the time. So I said, okay, no problem. You know, I'm not mad at him. So I X'd out all of his plot hooks. Just move on to the next guy. Yeah, so I'm looking at the next guy's plot hooks. And I'm just like, it's just not doing it. I move to the next one. There's a couple here. I move to the next one. I move through everybody's plot hooks, and there's just not that much there to drive the game. So I moved on to my railroad plots. Because railroads, you know, people decry the railroad, but if it's well done, it can be a lot of fun, you know. So I was looking at my railroad plots, and I'm like, they're all fucking space pirate bullshit tied to Greg's character, because I abandoned the original railroad storyline, and I'm like, I wasn't feeling it. I was like, guys, we're only 4 sessions in, and they weren't long sessions. If we were, you know, even 8 sessions in, we'd have all the side quests to support the story. It would be good, but we didn't have that, and we didn't have a captain, which I could have killed the captain or got rid of him and pushed it on to Mike and made Mike the captain, but he didn't have any motivation. So what's the point? So I said, since we're so new into it, let's just cut it and reboot on a new campaign. You know, I'll keep a tight railroad on this one. So that's a more in-depth retrospective of exactly what happened. There are multiple minor problems. None of them are major problems. Not even Greg quitting. It's not a major problem. but they just added up. You know, as a new campaign, one of the players left. He was the main driving force of the plot. So nobody else made motivated characters. They were great characters to roleplay with, they just weren't motivated. And I abandoned my railroad plot, so I didn't have a railroad there. So multiple problems. Still had fun while it was there. I just thought we'd have more fun rebooting rather than trying to make it work with something that I no longer saw a big payoff at the end of the day, and that we'd only invested a little bit in. I mean, it's one thing to get a payoff, a weak payoff, if you're really invested. If you've been in there for, you know, even 8 sessions, we could keep pushing it and get that payoff. Even though we know the payoff's not going to be that great, we can still push and get it. Because I hate fizzling games. I hate fumbling game masters. I always love closure. In this instance, you know, I didn't see it happening. Maybe we'll revisit the campaign. I hope so. Because what they did have for the pirate stuff was very interesting. It just wasn't there without Greg. It just wasn't interesting enough without him. So that's my second retrospective just for you, Rick. And I'm going to sign off now, but y'all have yourselves some real nice days out there in YouTube land.